Shaun O'Hara, the former Giants Super Bowl winner, does a good job with the NFL Network Analyst. You can see him Sundays on the NFL Network's NFL Game Day, first at 7 a.m. And, of course, the Giants take on the Rams in London. That'll air live on the NFL Network starting at 9:30. So everyone's got to get up and at 'em early. Shaun's kind enough to join me for a couple moments. How you been, Shaun?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing really good. Good to catch up and talk to you again. All right, let's stick with the NFC East. We'll start with the Eagles for a moment. And I'm not over the whole Carson Wentz thing. I just think there's other things to talk about. We know he's been playing very well. They had those two little bumps in the road on the road against the Lions in Washington. I'm more concerned with what transpired against the Washington Redskins, and now the loss of Lane Johnson with the young kid Vaitai back there. That offensive line has some issues. Peters is getting older. Kelsey hasn't performed well. You know, hey, you played on the offensive line with the Giants for a lot of years, so you know everything's in the trenches. Now you go against Minnesota and that defense, guys that love to get to the quarterback. How are the Eagles going to be able to offset that defense and keep them at bay a little bit and give Carson Wentz a little time to throw?
Yeah, the Vikings defense has kind of been the Da Vinci Code this season. Everybody's trying to crack what they've got going on. You know, they give you a lot of different looks. You know, the one thing that jumps out at me when I watch film on them is, you know, they love to mug their linebackers in both A gaps. And really what that does is it does a number of things. Number one, you've got to communicate, make sure everybody's on the same page as far as who has what guy, and that communication usually involves a running back. But what it does by bringing those linebackers in, even if they drop and they don't even blitz, now it takes the chip off of your tackles. But now the running back has to respect the A-gap blitzer. So, you know, you just mentioned the right tackle in Vaitai taking over for Lane Johnson. And so now the Vikings, what they're going to do, they're going to mug that linebacker that they know the back is responsible for. So now he can't chip on the tackles guy and he can't help out. So, you know, that's one little area within the game that it kind of changes. But I think for Minnesota, you know, they don't give up the big play.
Nope.
And that's one of the reasons why they're undefeated. They don't beat themselves. They're very physical, and they get you into third and long, and that's when they can pin their ears back and come after you. So, you know, really, whenever you play a defense as stout and as stingy as Minnesota, to me, the key is always first down production. If you can get, you know, 4 yards on first down, you know, or more, now you have a lot more opportunity on second down to give yourself a third and short. Third and 7+ is not where you want to be against them.
No, it's a great point. I mean, and certainly second and short, you can be a little more creative with your play calling. We saw what they did with the third and longs. They did it against the Giants. They did it against the Packers. They did it against the Panthers. And now you look at the Eagles, their wide receivers, they don't have a penchant for getting open. So you just have this feeling, if anything, the Eagles are going to have to try to at least establish the ground game. I'm not talking about running for $125. I'm talking about reps and volume of touches just to kind of offset that defense.
Yeah, I've always called it an effective run game, and that doesn't mean, you know, you have to have 200 yards rushing. But by effective, it just means, you know, you've got to stick with it and you've got to make them honor it. And by doing that, now you can open up the play-action pass game. Now, one of the things that, you know, Doug Peterson and Andy Reid made a living out of doing it is sometimes when your run game is struggling, a screen pass or a quick throw is the alternative to a run game. And, you know, if a quick throw out to a receiver and getting them out in space, all it takes is one missed tackle for the big play. So I expect them to use a lot of that. You know, I think – especially against the Vikings, you know, one of the best things you could probably do is spread them out and try to make them tackle. They have some very physical corners. Xavier Rhodes, you know, is a very physical corner. He did a great job against Odell Beckham a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Eagles offense. And it really, that's where the defense has to come in. And quite frankly, the defense failed them last week against Washington. You know, I give credit to the Redskins O-line and what they were able to do with giving Kirk Cousins time. But, you know, the Vikings don't exactly have a great run game, but you can't let Sam Bradford sit back there and burp the baby in the pocket. You've got to get pressure on him.
No, you're right, and I would suspect too, going back to the offense, try to get Sproles involved a little bit. And you're right. I mean, sometimes when you can get a couple yards on that screen pass, that's just as good as getting 3 or 4 yards running the ball on first or second down. All right, how about the Giants go to London? You made that trip back in 2007. I remember that game. It was a sloppy game. I mean, I think Eli Manning outran Taylor on a scramble, a rushing touchdown. But
oh yeah, he bragged about it right home.
Yeah, I'm just more concerned. Let me ask you this quickly on the Giants. The offense broke out against the Ravens. It helps when you get the ball to your best playmakers' hands. I know their offensive line has been shaky. It's not like the line that you played with years ago with yourself and O'Hara, yourself and Deal, and McKenzie and Seibert and Snee and all those guys. I'm looking at the Giants, and I get you want to get the ball into Beckham's hands, but I also think sometimes you can't just force feed it. And you have to be careful because the Rams, their defense, it's not all world, but they've got some playmakers too. And I guess I would caution the Giant fan if they think they're going to go to London and have a walkover against the Rams. And also too, Shaun, think about this. Gurley's been quiet this year, rushing the football. I mean, it seems as though he's a carry away from breaking one.
Yeah, I agree. The Rams are a very dangerous team, and pick your poison. They were either going to fly to LA and do it or fly to London. So I think this defense is very scary. And you mentioned the offensive line. Eric Flowers. He started out the season playing pretty well the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then he's really had a couple of tough weeks. And I think this offense. It's hard for me to sit back and watch it and say, man, compare it to the offense that we ran back when I was there and with my
with Gilbride,
brothers. We were a very run first, play action pass heavy offense. This offense is different. So they're in shotgun, 95% of the time. They're in 3 wides. 11 personnel, 96% of the time. So it's a totally different offense. Even when they go in short yardage and goal line, they don't even have a fullback on the roster. So that in itself kind of makes this offense a little bit different. And I think against the Rams, they're a very physical front. You've got to find a way to establish that physical aspect of the game. And I think that's where the Giants have struggled to win games is really taking over the football game on the offensive line side of the ball and running the ball when you have to run it, when everybody in the building knows you got to run it. But I agree with you with your point about Odell Beckham. You can't just try to force the deep ball down their throats. And really, frankly, the 4th and 1 big touchdown play that he had, I mean, it was a quick slant.
Yeah.
And, it was really just a good throw, good timing throw. I expect to see a lot more of Odell in the slot. And just kind of moving him around just to try to get him more in space.
Get a couple minutes with Shaun O'Hara, former Giants Super Bowl winner, NFL Network analyst. You can see him Sundays on NFL Network's NFL Game Day. First at 7 a.m. And, of course, Giants take on the Rams on the NFL Network from London. Airs live on the NFL Network starting at 9:30 in the morning. So get up early for that one. One more quick one on that game, and then I want to go to the Cowboys for a second. Are you surprised that we haven't seen Goff at all? Because I'm looking at this. This is just me right now. You got Jeff Fisher, who's a veteran coach. You give Keenum the ball, and I'm just wondering, they've dropped a couple, but they're playing hard. They're playing competitive. I'm shocked we haven't seen him when you look at all the other young quarterbacks playing at a high level right now. Is this a situation where maybe Fisher doesn't want to disrupt the apple cart, for lack of a better phrase, maybe lose that locker room?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you have to consider as a coach is, yeah, sure, we'd love to see this kid and evaluate him, but what message is that sending our team and our locker room? I thought, in the first couple of weeks when Case Keenum was really struggling and offensively they were just struggling in general, I thought, hey, this would be the perfect time to see what Goff can do and try to bring a spark to the offense, and they didn't do it. So I'm sure Goff is chomping at the bit too. I mean, for him to be the number 1 pick and looking around and seeing all these other guys that he was in the draft with,
sure,
and they're all playing
at a high level.
Well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's saying, man, I want to get out there. I think the team right now is playing pretty well. I mean, they're they've made a big turnaround from the first couple of weeks offensively, when they got shellacked by the 49ers in week 1. And offensively, there was a no-show. They've done a lot better. But I also think the offensive line's got to play well, too. You don't want to throw the kid to the wolves.
Nope.
And have him out there getting killed. And, And I'm sure all those factors are playing into it.
Two more quickies for you, so we'll go 30 seconds on these. The Dallas Cowboys, I know Jerry Jones, he's going to waver with if it's going to be Prescott or Romo. I think right now the kids are in the right to continue to play. Do you think Tony Romo would buy into, hey, Tony, there's going to be a time where this kid's going to struggle and get nicked up. We're going to have to go to you. That's kind of the first one. And the second one is, how impressed have you been with what the Cowboys and that offensive line has been able to do? And they built through the draft as well.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised by the Cowboys O-line. And you mentioned the draft. I mean, they've got 3 first-round picks in there, and when you factor in Lyle Collins, who's actually on IR, he should have been a first-rounder as well. So they invested in it, and it's paying off. They're just so physical up front. I don't think you can say anybody could win at quarterback with them, but Dak Prescott has been unbelievable, and I think the way that he's played. And, look, they're not just throwing the ball 18 times either. They're not running the ball 50 times and saying just don't mess it up. He's got some leeway. He's checking plays at the line. He's scrambled around. He's finding guys. So this is, really this is a tough choice for Dallas. But I think when you look at the team, and not even just this year, going forward, if you said I'm going to do what's best for the team this year and for the franchise going forward, I don't know how you bench Dak Prescott.
Agreed.
Because it's clear to me that he is the future, and I don't know why you would wait. Even if you benched him and Tony Romo came in and played well, are you going to pay Tony Romo next year?
No.
When you got this kid sitting on the bench,
you can't. You can't.
I think Tony, as much as he would have a hard time when he wants to play, it's not even about Tony. It's not even about that he's not good enough. Tony Romo might be a better quarterback. I'm not going to argue that, but to have Tony Romo, like you said, as your guy to come in in case something happens to Dak, that's an unbelievable luxury. And you can kind of help him tutor it, but he understands that it's a lot about rhythm. And you know what? You might win games next year because Dak Prescott learned a tough lesson this year.
10 seconds. Last one for you. Best team in the NFC, not the Minnesota Vikings.
Ooh, boy, that's a tough one. I think Atlanta. They should have beat Seattle. I mean, that was if they get that pass interference call, they lose by 2. They kick a field goal. I think Atlanta is, you could argue that Atlanta could be better than Minnesota with how many points they're putting up.
The offense is clicking. Absolutely. Shaun, great stuff, pal. I know we're a little tight. I appreciate it. Certainly keep up the great work on the NFL Network, and we'll certainly check out the Giants and the Rams from London starting at 9:30. So it sounds like you got a couple little ones back there. I'm sure you'll be up early for that one.
Oh, yeah. My daughter's right here rifling through my desk.
I appreciate a couple moments.
Thanks,
but
Rich.
All right, you got it, Shaun. Be well. Shaun O'Hara does a really good job. Good stuff on the Eagles.